This is the TNA Wrestling Turning Point 2025 full show results video, which takes place at Full Sail University in Orlando, Florida. TNA World Champion Frankie Kazarian arrives instead of the expected Mike Santana. Kazarian calls Santana yesterday's news, asserting his own importance. Santino Marella steps in, demanding order and reminding everyone that TNA is a closed set with strict security and credential requirements. Then we saw a three-way match between Mance Warner versus Jake Something versus the Hometown Man. The match opens with chants for Hometown Man before Something bulldozes him. Chaos follows with brawls, a standing delayed suplex, and a Tower of Doom. Hometown Man hits a top rope splash outside, but DeLander's distraction lets Mance land a lariat. Hometown Man recovers with the Hometown Slice, yet Something catches him with Into the Void to score the victory. BDE is then interviewed backstage by Gia Miller, and says he is nervous but not scared. He is going to prove that he is a wrestler and will make AJ Francis go viral when he embarrasses the big man. Frankie Kazarian heads to the ring for the King's Speech, booed by the crowd, but declares he's still the champion and proudly self-made. He taunts the fans, saying their anger fuels him, and denies any involvement in the previous night's NXT interference. Kazarian then calls out TNA President Carlos Silva, demanding an official title presentation. Silva complies but announces an investigation into the NXT chaos, with Kazarian included as a subject. Outraged, Kazarian insists he had nothing to do with the attack and is offended that Silva would suspect him. Nic and Ryan Nemeth confront Kazarian, with Nic noting everyone was attacked except the new champion. They argue, and Kazarian mocks Nic as Mr. Money in the Bank, calling him a scoundrel. Nic announces he'll call his shot tonight and team with Kazarian, agreeing to trust him, for now, before promising he'll eventually take Kazarian's title. Then we saw a match between Kelani Jordan vs M by Elegance for the TNA Knockout Championship. The match begins with fast back-and-forth action before M is drop-kicked to the floor. Jordan follows with a moonsault, though M is slightly out of position. A referee distraction lets Heather interfere, helping M take control with kicks, knees, and a Northern Lights suplex. M dominates until missing a moonsault, allowing Jordan to rally. They trade big moves, pump kicks, cartwheel attacks, an inverted DDT, and a Michinoku driver, but neither can secure the pin. Jordan goes for the Hollywood Star Press, but M counters before Jordan rebounds with a split-legged stunner. After M sends Jordan into the turnbuckles to escape a Boston Crab, Jordan finally lands a split-legged moonsault to win the match. Gia Miller interviews Mara Sadi and the Angel Warriors backstage. The Warriors confidently state they'll win the Knockouts tag titles, while Sadi says she has her eye on Kelani Jordan. Ryan Nemeth then interrupts, irritating the entire group with his antics. Backstage, Santino Marella tells Ava and Ariana Grace that TNA can't be disrespected like this. Ava insists she never approved the chaos and won't jeopardize their partnership, saying she'll control her roster while Santino handles his. The next match happened between BDE versus AJ Francis. The match opens with BDE jumping onto Francis for a sleeper, but Francis slams him down and dominates with choking, crushing strikes, and corner attacks. BDE fights back briefly, only to be caught mid-arana and slammed on the floor, barely beating the count. Francis applies an armbar, but BDE rallies with a leaping stunner, missile dropkick, and Canadian destroyer for near falls. Francis answers with a spear and a huge chokeslam, taunting the crowd as BDE defiantly urges him on. Francis finishes the match with the down payment, securing the victory after an intense, hard-hitting battle. In a backstage interview, Steve Macklin says he hasn't seen Mike Santana but will fight alone if needed. He warns he knows exactly who he's facing and promises to stack bodies in the ring. Macklin says he'll be waiting for the NXT PC crew, warning they chose the wrong man to provoke. Then we saw a no disqualification match between Indy Hartwell versus Dani Luna. The fight begins with Luna and Hartwell brawling up the aisle, trading weapon shots with a Singapore cane, chairs, and a ladder. Luna gains the early advantage, choking Hartwell with a screwdriver and hitting a German suplex after throwing powder in her face. Hartwell fires back with cane shots, but Luna drops her onto chairs for a near fall and applies a cane-assisted crossface. Hartwell rallies, sending Luna into a ladder and hitting a spinebuster on it. She then smashes Luna through a table with a flying elbow drop from the top rope. Luna avoids a dragon suplex, but Hartwell counters, driving Luna's jaw into a chair to score the hard-fought victory. Ava informed Santino that she had hired extra security for tonight. Santino was pleased to hear that, and he apologized for being frustrated. Santino doesn't like getting caught with his pants on the floor. We then get the entrances of the next match of the PPV. Tessa Blanchard announces she is not medically cleared to wrestle, and her substitute is new signing Mila Moore. Then we saw a match between The Inspiration vs Victoria Crawford and Mila Moore vs Zaya Brookside and Liang Li for the Knockouts Tag Team Championship. The match erupts into an all-out brawl before The Inspiration takes early control. Crawford fights back with a double jawbreaker, and chaos breaks out as all teams battle. Moore targets Lee with knees and a chinlock, but the action spills outside with Lee hitting a body press on Moore and Crawford. In the final moments, The Inspiration capitalized, hitting the Idolizer on Brookside to score the victory, retaining the Knockouts Tag Team Championship. Then we saw a 6-man tag team match between Cedric Alexander and the Hardys vs Order 4. The match begins with the Hardys and Josh Alexander dominating John Skyler before Order 4 are cleared to the floor. Alexander and Ali exchange fast counters, ending with a pop-up powerbomb and German suplex. A lumbar check attempt is stopped when Ali rakes the eyes after Tasha Steelz distracts the referee. Order 4 isolate and punish Alexander until he counters Hotch with a DVDR. Matt Hardy tags in, briefly gaining momentum before interference lets Skyler regain control. Jeff Hardy eventually enters, and the Hardys and Alexander hit a Twist of Fate lumbar check combo, but Ali breaks the pin. Chaos erupts as dives and big moves hit everywhere. Matt lands a double Twist of Fate on Skyler and Steelz, but Agent Zero removes the referee, attacks, and Ali delivers a low blow, giving Order 4 the win. The next match happened between the System versus the Rascalz. The match opens with rapid offense from the Rascalz, including a DDT from Xavier on Edwards. Moose turns the tide with a huge dropkick and sit-out powerbomb. The Rascalz regroup to quadruple team Moose, and chaos spills outside as Reed dives onto everyone. The System briefly clears the ring before the Rascalz hit the soup kitchen on JDC. Moose breaks the pin by slamming Miguel onto the pile, but Trey rebounds and finishes the match with a spiral tap on JDC for the win. Eric Young confronts Santino Marella, claiming all the chaos is his fault. He insists he knows the real truth, says the NXT attacks are because of Santino, and warns the cleanse is coming to fix everything. The next match happened between Leon Slater vs Rich Swann for the TNA X Division Championship. The match begins with a cautious lockup before Slater gains momentum with a running boot and dive. Swann battles back with a rolling clothesline and sends Slater crashing into the steps, injuring him. Despite the pain, Slater fights on, trading near falls with Swann through heavy strikes, cutters, a torture rack attempt, and a blocked Styles Clash. Swann hits a 450 splash but can't finish the champion. A top rope struggle leads to Slater landing a huge suplex and finally connecting with the Styles Clash for a near fall. After a final exchange, Slater hits his finisher to retain the X Division Championship. After the match, Gia Miller interviews Leon Slater, acknowledging the recent passing of his grandmother with an in memoriam graphic. Slater thanks the fans and his family for their support. He highlights his upcoming NXT match, declaring that he and J. Yvonne Evans will become the youngest NXT Tag Team Champions at Gold Rush. In the main event of the show, we saw a tag team match between Frankie Kazarian and Nic Nemeth versus Mike Santana and Steve Maclin. The match begins with Maclin fighting alone, hitting Scud missiles on Kazarian and Nemeth before Mara Sod appears and drops Ryan Nemeth. Kazarian turns the tide by sending Maclin into the steps, and Nemeth nearly scores a fall with the Famouser. Maclin rallies, but a car arrives. Mike Santana enters to a huge reaction. Santana unloads on Nemeth, hits a DVDR, and dives onto Kazarian. Nemeth targets Santana's injured arm, but Santana survives. Kazarian hits Fade to Black, yet Santana kicks out and fires back with Spin the Block to secure the win for himself and Maclin. After the match, Kazarian is left down as Nic Nemeth prepares to call his shot, but NXT stars storm in and attack everyone. Kazarian avoids the assault, raising suspicion. Security fails to stop the invasion, and Santino is taken out by Brooks Jensen. The Hardys arrive with chairs but are overwhelmed as the NXT attackers dominate to close Turning Point. How would you rate the TNA's Turning Point 2025 pay-per-view? Tell me in the comments, and thanks for watching the video.